outside of what was once my family home in St. Peter's. My hubby and I had only bought it in 2014, and it was our first home, so we were really looking forward to raising our little girl there. But this is what it looks like today. It was one of over 400 homes that have been destroyed for WestCONnex, which, as Steve said, is our biggest infrastructure project. So I obviously had a really powerful motivator for finding out more about it. But I found that most people really struggle to get on top of it because of the way the government has shut down transparency around it. And that's a big deal because WestCONnex is about more than just whether a toll road gets built. It's about what kind of city we want to create and how we go about creating it. Because when it comes to the kind of city we're creating, there aren't many now that still view motorways as progress. The myth that you can build roads to bust congestion was itself busted back in the 1950s because new roads generate new traffic. And you can see the proof of that in WestCONnex's design because most of its 33 kilometres simply duplicates roads we already have that are now full. And of course, those full roads were once meant to fix other full roads, but they just made traffic worse. And when you create a city that has motorways at its core, you create other problems that even kids can get their heads around. Pollution, diseases, environmental destruction, climate change. And that's why we're now seeing cities tearing down freeways instead of building new ones, like Paris, New York, San Francisco and Seoul, where you'll find this former highway. And they're actually finding this reduces traffic because when the roads are gone, we find other ways to get around. So if Sydney were to follow that approach and build a city with world-class public transport at its core rather than WestCONnex, we could have the beginnings of a wonderful new vision that would probably cost us less than $45 billion too. So that's what WestCONnex is jeopardising when it comes to what kind of city we create. But it's got even more serious implications for how we create our cities, starting with how our money is being spent. Because with WestCONnex, we have a situation where you and I, as taxpayers, are having to fork out billions of dollars to build it. Because after disasters like the Lane Cove and Cross City tunnels, no private company would take on the risk. But there's been no transparency around this unprecedented handover of public money into private hands. The WestCONnex business case is full of redactions like this. And the government has even privatised the corporation responsible for building it to shield it from freedom of information requests and accountability. So who benefits from that? Well, there's the corporations that are landing big contracts to develop WestCONnex and that are lining up to collect the tolls from it for the next 40 years. And many of these companies are huge political donors. Some of them were even involved in developing WestCONnex in the first place. So what does that mean for us in terms of how our cities are created? Well, it means decisions about what gets built aren't based on what makes people's lives better, but rather what makes the most profits for the corporations that can afford to buy their way into power and hand million-dollar jobs to former premiers when they leave office. So it's not too late to stop WestCONnex and start moving towards that brighter vision for our future. And look, there really is many, many examples of where this has happened. In Perth, we've seen that communities working together have just stopped the Perth Freight Link. And in 2014, we saw it in Melbourne when communities stopped the East-West Link. Even here in Sydney, people just like you working together stopped two massive expressways from destroying much of our inner city and taking out suburbs like Glebe and Ultimo in Pyrmont and Annandale. But with work on WestCONnex underway, the time to act is now. Because if we don't stop it, we're not just going to end up with a white elephant of a tollway that has destroyed communities and sold us all out to toll road companies. If we let our government get away with WestCONnex, it's going to become the way everything is done in New South Wales, with no transparency, no accountability, and no benefit for anyone except the handful of corporations pocketing billions of our money. So if the future of our city is something that matters to you, now is the time to make your voice heard. Because together we can stop WestCONnex. And we can certainly create a better city than the one that's being created for us now. Thank you.